Welcome to Tech and Code Report with Emil. In today's video, I will be creating a Metal Slug inspired game purely built in HTML and JavaScript. First of all, we will be creating the assets that will be required for this game. Regarding the assets like how the player will function, what are the different enemies that will be in the game. So besides that, the first thing we are going to do is creating the assets, or basically generating the assets using Gemini. And obviously Gemini will give us the assets with some background, so we'll be then using Python to remove the background of those assets. But in this video specifically, our focus will be on creating the assets. So let's get started. Now the first thing is, let me ask Gemini to give me the detailed prompts that I can use to generate the images. Now the thing with AI or Gemini is like it will give you a prompt, but that prompt would be mostly focused on a complete frame, or like having 6 to 7 or 8 frames, which doesn't result in good assets. So what I will be doing is breaking down each frame into a single asset, and then we will be combining them in the real game when we merge our assets. So let's focus on creating the first asset, and that is creating the player. So now you can see we have about 8 frames or 4 frames with duplicates. So this is not correct. It can work, but it will require more work later on. So let's share it with Gemini and see what feedback it gives us. Now as you can see, the Gemini gave me some feedback and it told me to update it, like use this file, but it is better to use another prompt, and so the player can shoot, jump and flip poses. So I will just now share this again with AI to see what do you think it is right now. And besides that, I want to be focused on one frame at a time, not like a sequence of frames, but rather have one frame at a time. So now I've asked AI to give me one detailed prompt for each frame, and let's get started again. Okay, so I will ask AI to generate me an image or an asset, and I think we are going to create about 6 to 8 or 6 to 10 different frames. And whenever I generate an image or generate an asset, I will be looping it back into Gemini, so Gemini knows what I am up to, what my status is so far. So every asset generated is given back to Gemini for it to assess it, and based on the assessment we do the next step. So I have created a running state and an ideal step, so we are in step 1.2. Now the next step will be to do something like adding weapon or other thing that could help us improve our main character assets. So I'm telling Gemini again, like, okay, I have done step 1.2 and 1.2, and I'm asking it for what suggestion it can give me for the names I can use for the assets. So while the third asset is generating, let me save the first asset and let's give it the name SP player or something like this. Now let's work on the second one, player ideal, and continue. Now single player run and single player ideal. Now let's copy this. This is the step 1.3, which is a result of shooting when the asset or the character will be shooting. So I'm now copying it back to Gemini and asking it what its feedback is. Now it is saying, okay, this is correct, you can call it single player shooting. Now it gave me 1.4. I'm copying 1.4 and telling AI, okay, this is the result, what do you think? And obviously it looks much better than a first few generation we did. And this is for flip, or when they have to jump to, dodge a block or something. So now go back to 1.4 and see what we get. And now the AI is asking me, what do you think the enemy asset should have? This should they have a laser beam, or they have to do random fires or what? So I'm just telling AI, use your best judgment and let's create 2 to 3 enemies and focus on the game background, and that is more than enough. So as I mentioned start of this video, and we are focusing mainly on assets. So we have created the first enemy asset, which looks like a drone, and now we need to have the attacking mode for the drone. This is just the ideal state in which the drone will be moving up and down to the left or right of the screen. Now let's wait for the Gemini response. Okay, there's some issue occurred, and I'm telling AI to use, this is the first enemy, use your best just judgment and see what we can do. It's telling me this is okay, just give it a name, single player drone raw footage. And now the next one is to create an alert or a charging state for this drone. Now we got AI slope, and let me share it back with Gemini, and obviously Gemini will tell me this is not correct. You need to regenerate it and focus mainly on how the first enemy image was, as these two are completely different. So the next step is to improve on how the enemy will charge, or how it will look when the enemy will be attacking the single player character. Now this is the charging, or how when it will attack the character. Okay, so we have got about 6 assets so far, and I'm sharing it with AI to see, okay, this is my local files, and what do you think? Now it is telling me, okay, this is more than enough for now, and let's focus on the drone firing animation. Once we have that, then we will be focusing on how the background will look, how the background animation will go in together along with the animations and different graphics we created so far. So let's add one more here. Let's save this as single player enemy drone fire raw. So now we have a total of 6 assets so far, and the next focus would be obviously be on the background and other things. Now let me tell AI this is my local assets. Okay, and I haven't shared my image with the local asset, so let me rerun it again and wait for the next step. Meanwhile, the background asset is generated, which looks like a metal grid that I can, run it on the back, which looks like an animation, or which would look like a background asset. Mine will be working as a background asset. So we have one background asset as of now, and let's share it with AI. And based on the AI response, it's saying, okay, create some more. I'm creating another assets, and as you can see, most of this work or all of the work is being done by the agent. I'm just sharing the feedback and what my current local status is right now, as I'm focusing completely on the assets, nothing more. So let's see what response we get from AI based on what we have done so far. Meanwhile, in the background, our parallax background layer is being generated. Okay, and let's see, it has been generated, and let's share it back with AI and see what response we get from AI based on the image generated. So the reason for going back and forth is to only get the feedback and use the feedback to improve the assets. So that is the main focus. Now it is saying you have some issue over here, but you can fix it with Python. And I will just ask it to, just generate it again, because we do not have any limit on the generation as of now. So generating is much more efficient than using Python or scripts to fix the assets. So let's again regenerate it and wait for the response. So far we have created about 7 assets. This will be the 8th one. And let's continue with the final asset, that is for background. Once this is generated, I will share it back with AI and see how this goes and what feedback we get. Once we have all of these assets, I will be creating a detailed prompt with Gemini app application, or within the Gemini app. I will be creating a detailed prompt and I will be sharing that detailed prompt with anti-gravity IDE, Codex, and Cursor. So I'll be using these three IDEs to build the game, finalize the game, and obviously then test the game with agents and manually. Now I have finally generated the VFX asset that we'll be using for boom or shooting, or different things that are going to be added in the game, as this is not a game with a defined plane. It is more or less of a dynamic game that we are going to build with Gemini and other tools I mentioned, Codex, Cursor, and a few other IDEs and large language models we'll be using. So wait for it and see you in the next video while we continue building the game.